The Banking Scene Director's Cut goes behind the scenes, sharing stories and insights to help you build the bank of tomorrow.
Welcome, Deepak, to the Banking Scene Director's Cut. For us to, before we even get started, can you tell our listeners a little bit about your role at Backbase and what you spend most of your time thinking about these days?
Hi, Andrew, and thanks for having me here. So, hi, everyone. I'm Deepak. I'm the Vice President of Technology at Backbase. Backbase, as some of you may know, has been a digital banking platform company building out experiences for any stage of your banking experience for the customer or the employee. And these journeys could be in your mobile app, in your web app, powered by backend microservices that belongs to operations across accounts, transactions, payments, cards, or you name the journey, onboarding, operations, anything. All of those journeys have been pre-made by Backbase with our platform. But all of those also require integrations, as well as those integrations can go to downstream systems like core banking systems, payment systems, CRM systems, and on an average 10 fintechs in every bank. Those integrations needed a platform. So I had the platform for integrations at Backbase. It is called Grand Central. And of late, in the last 2 years, I have also been responsible for the agentic AI strategy of Backbase, building the agentic AI platform. As we'll discover in this discussion today, it is a natural curve for a lot of people working very close to the data to converge their paths towards agents, where the new interaction paradigm, which was an app before, which didn't have any AI in it, now it is an app with a lot of AI in it. So all of these converge towards my role at Backbase being responsible for the integration and agentic platform.
And you mentioned there, 10 fintechs on average in every bank, we've done lots of digitization in the past, but it's all been, let's say each different department has improved their customer experience through digitization. But in reality, most banks have got a lot of fragmented systems that are running across. They're not unified yet. Where do you see this fragmentation hurting banks the most? Is it within their data, their systems, their processes, their people? Where is fragmentation hurting them?
I think if you look at digital transformation programs in banks, they were always a massive cross-departmental collaboration effort. And something that the different banks or different enterprises, not just banking, have mastered over years. However, when the wave of AI dropped to us 2 years ago, this became a people problem, in my opinion. First is that who in the organization is responsible for delivering that change through AI tooling? It's a massive puzzle to solve. I mean, you cannot point a finger in a bank and say who is the head of AI or who is learning or working with one AI initiative, because so many of these initiatives are working in silos. They are all with good intent. So whether it is about acquiring a new customer, activating a new customer, or expanding on your customer base or retaining your customers, every business owner in the bank has good intent to modernize that with AI. However, this silos has resulted in also experimentation happening in a bank, because everybody wants to be the cool kid sometimes, or the technology shift has leaned into people, and people are more cognizant of the fact that this is the future. So there is a, let's say, in all positive sense, an AI arms race in every enterprise, but with all good intent, right? This has been hurting, but a lot of departments and a lot of banks are taking note of solving this problem.
But I think my friend Damesh Mistry wrote a blog post recently, and I think he framed it quite well. After attending one of the Backbase Engage events, where the title of his blog post is Why AI is Core to Banking and Not Just an Ingredient. And I think to date, as you said, every single one of those silos with good intentions, the people have stuffed AI into there. Whereas now, from Backbase's perspective, the mindset needs to flip. It needs to be sort of AI at the core first. What are you doing with it? In practical terms, what does that sort of platform mindset change for a bank make? How does that work? Can you describe the platformification angle to us there?
Absolutely right. So if you look, platformification in the cloud native era has been solved very well. So there are organizations like CNCF, which did it very well. We all graduated from becoming microservices experts to GitOps experts to observability experts, and all of those architectures have pretty much matured in every organization.
Mhm.
However, when it comes to working with AI, to have an AI native platform, the industry is at such a volatile stage that standards are changing, standards are being formed. At the same time, there is a dire need to innovate in every department, whether it is onboarding, servicing, compliance, anything. And the philosophy is that you would not like to just do human execution and AI assistance. Rather, you would like to go towards a world where there could be a little bit of agent execution and human supervision. And for doing that, you must think of the same wave that we all executed from 2010s to 2025, let's say, of cloud native platforms. We need to apply that for AI native platforms also. And that requires every organization, whether it is banking or the rest of the industries, to start looking at this as a landing zone for AI innovations in your enterprise. That means there is a central unit that looks into platformifying any construct that makes AI tick. And that could be, how do you serve your models? How do you make your agents? How do you run them? How do you govern them? How do you secure them? And how do you evaluate them? And this entire cycle requires probably not one tool, but 10 tools. And most probably your hyperscaler promises to solve all of these, but they do not, because there are better tools for everything. And that knowledge, if that can be brought together and distributed across the organization, that is the first step we believe banks especially must be taking right now. With or without platforms like Backbase, this is a must, in my opinion, for landing and expanding AI in a sustainable manner.
But one of the core things that we know AI needs is data. And in a lot of these banks, not only do the people operate in silos, but the data is sitting in silos. How do you address that problem? How do you address the access to data which these AIs need to be able to consume far more than even potentially the humans used to, because the humans used to look in their single silo. Now suddenly you need these agents to be able to execute decisions and do things across the entire, as you say, across the entire operations. How's this impacting data and data models, data access, data governance, that kind of a thing?
Yeah, so I think there was a good part about digital banking modernization play, right? So a lot of banks already started investing in their API modernization also. So while they were thinking of modernizing their experiences, there was a dire need to also standardize on their APIs. Some banks do it well, some banks are still like in that journey. And I think with AI innovation, it has become a must have, because if you can't unify your APIs in a way, your data contracts in a way where a standard description is available to the models, it would cause problems, or it would cause redundant code being written even in your agentic layer, which you want to keep lean because you want to have your models superpowers being maximized. And that is best done if your data model is centralized. One of the concepts we work with is domain-led connectivity. That means you think of bank being distributed into multiple domains, like deposits, like loans, payments, cards, fraud. And across those domains, you would have either APIs standardized,
Mhm.
irrespective of the vendor serving them, a unified contract. So, for example, Backbase is working with Buy-in, Banking Industry Architecture Network. We follow that domain model to literally redesign the unified API layer we are offering to our banks now. This allows us to have high quality APIs for the standard application world, but even more, it allows now us to have a very well defined models, that a domain model that a large language model can understand,
Mhm.
which means if you convert these APIs with an ever maturing MCP standard. We all were very skeptical a year ago about MCP. Now it is being donated to the AI Foundation, and it has become the norm with higher security rings around it, higher compliance rings around it. I think it's a moment for us to also like choose that, given that your APIs are well defined, your MCP servers also become effective. There's an opportunity to make them effective. And this is the approach we have taken. Create connectors to different vendors, unify them through a standardized API based on a banking domain model like buy-in, and then offer them based on the choice of the agent as an MCP server. And you could control which kind of operations you want to expose to the model. Maybe you are not exposing sensitive operations in the beginning, and then you start to tighten the loop. So this is one way of looking at your data strategy to enable AI innovations.
So if we want to now make this really tangible, what does this mean? An AI-powered platform and agentic approach, and you had said you want to switch it from human execution with AI assistance to agent execution plus human supervision where necessary. Can you just walk us through a concrete journey where this kind of an agentic approach changes the game for either customers or employees? But,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, let's look into like what is one of the most growth driven business for banking. Let's look into wealth as an example. The life of a relationship manager, right? He is dealing with high net worth individuals, advising them on deals which are dealing in millions of dollars.
Mhm.
And in this case, he comes prepared for his next conversation with his customer, he or she. And in those cases, he or she can decide that I may prepare all of this information, which could involve market data study of the investment portfolio of the customer, the latest trends in the market, as well as it's such a personalized industry of relationship managers that you need to have a personal touch while you're talking to your customers.
Yes.
And AI is very effective in helping in such use cases. So the relationship manager can now log on to their usual relationship manager portal where they can see all the details of your customer. But now they can activate multiple agents like a meeting preparation agent, like a market data research agent, or an internet search agent that delivers the news around the stocks that the person is interested in. So while this would take them a week or so to prepare, now they can let these agents be triggered in the background, prepared a highly tailored response alongside some personal touches of the last memory they have in talking to that customer. How was your holiday? How was your children doing? How is the school going? So all of those memory touch points are also part of your landing zone, because your landing zone will include a short-term memory and a long-term memory infrastructure element also. At the
Okay.
same time, you would have access to MCP servers that could search the web. At the same time, you would have access to APIs or MCP servers which could go to the investment portfolio and give you the data. So all of this, the model is very well designed to invoke at the right moment,
Mhm.
prepare this information, and it can do classical sentimental analysis in order to tailor the tone and also give you things in real life like what could be the objections if I propose a certain stock as an example. And this makes you 10x more effective as a practitioner. And this use case is actually, as we speak, live in Backbase platform, running on top of our agentic platform, and many such other use cases could be seen in the lives of employees as well as customers. But as I showed you all of this journey, the way we were able to land it in a secure, reliable manner was because we built on a platform. Because this kind of
I was
interaction,
I was going to ask you about that because now you've got a whole lot of non-deterministic agents flying around. How do you do that within a regulated environment like banking?
it's a very good point, right? I think trust, security, and reducing the non-deterministic agentic behavior to something more trustable is the number one metric of,
Mhm.
and also the number one detractor for people to even attempt to do AI right now. So when we started looking into the AI platform landing zone, one of the key things we introduced, which a lot of platforms are doing, by the way, even the hyperscalers are doing. If you look at Azure's, Google's of this world, or Bedrock from Amazon, they're also trying to build a construct of observability and evaluations sitting next to each other, which means when you are developing a new agentic journey, your domain experts, not a developer, your domain experts is looking into the observability data. They are looking and annotating it, saying that this is a good response, this is a bad response, and give it a score. Then you could also appoint other LLMs who are very good at judging the response of other LLMs. So you introduce a concept called LLM as a judge, and they help the domain expert to take decisions to reduce the non-deterministic behavior to something which is of a high degree of accuracy. And this is a continuous cycle. It happens before you deploy to production, before you launch for the first time, but you continuously sample, and this feedback loop becomes very important.
So the
if you
quality gets better and better and better the more it is used.
Correct. And I think it's very closely related to how we were doing testing in the cloud native world. In the AI world, it now becomes an observability and evaluation feedback loop. And there are multiple tools out there. If you look at tools like LangFuse, LangWatch, Arise, and the hyperscaler like Azure Foundry has one evaluation tool also. Similarly for Google's, everybody's building these tools. And the key is that these tools must be there before your developers and before your domain experts in your landing zone, because they should be close to your agents and close to the makers of the agents, let's say. So that's how we deal with the first part. The second part is about control and privacy and trust of the regulator. So in that angle, you have to look at 4 points. You need to look into your architecture across application, model, data, and infrastructure. So these 4 points, and you start measuring them against the regulatory requirements of, for example, EU AI Act, NIST, AIRMF, or GDPR, or DORA, and you start looking into data governance, model risk, accountability, explainability, operational resilience, and human oversight. Some of these terms are very legal and compliance-centric in nature, but what you build in a centralized platform is a control framework where across your application, across your model, across your data and infrastructure, you can checkbox these controls. And then when you design your landing zone, you start looking into, do I have a secure SDLC? Do my agents operate in a sandbox? Do I have a AI gateway so that I can regulate the access to the model? Put guardrails at the AI gateway level also. Do I have ephemeral access to data? A new term which is popping up in the circle is red teaming. So what you would do, you will make an agent. You will use tools, for example, a tool like PromptFoo. You will use it to attack the agent you have just made with the help of other agents. And it will test it for harmful content, bias, prompt injection attack. So you do battle testing of an agent before you go to production with this kind of setup. And then again, all these tools are then part of your landing zone, so that the developers or the business people who wants to agentify a new process can now walk in and they can get the access to the full suite, so that they see the secure foundation for a trusted agentic infrastructure.
You touched on SDLC there, and one thing that stands out in your approach at the moment is the use of AI agents across the software lifecycle, from business analysis all the way through architecture, testing, and code. Can you walk us how that actually works end to end? Is that like the red teaming approach that you've just saying, in terms of battle testing the agents, or is there something more to it?
Yeah, so I think if you look at when you have made an agent, you would like to red team against it, right? You want to test its reliability and security. But I think your journey of development and deployment of agents starts much before that. And that's a traditional software development lifecycle where it starts with the analysis, product management, business analysis, goes through architecture, goes through development and testing. So all of this had a potential that this could be agentified also. Because why? Because with GitHub Copilot, Cursor, Claude Code, developers have been empowered now to do much more in much short time. But how about the personas which appear before developer? Your architect,
Yes.
your business analyst.
Well, the business analyst asking the questions of what they're trying to improve on or what they're trying to achieve. Is all of that now, you apply agents for that?
Correct. So Backbase also offers and has built an agentic SDLC Our teams are building an end-to-end framework assisting every persona in the software development lifecycle, and there is a dedicated agent that can be plugged into your favorite IDE, and you can start talking to it, right? And this comes from a recently popular approach. It's called BMAD, Breakthrough Method for Agile AI-driven Development, which allows you to already have all these little agents for a project manager, for a business analyst, for an architect, a QA person, as well as a tester, and a UX person also. There are tools which allow you to do this even in UX, design system. So Backbase is industrializing in our own development or any users of Backbase platform. And this is not necessarily limited to Backbase. It could be applied by any software team in any industry. I was doing my pet project at home and I could apply Be Mad, act like a product manager one day. The next day, this agent was acting like my UX, and I'm like very bad at UX. But I could like send screenshots of other websites I like to rationalize on UX. And while this was doing it, right, the BMAT framework was also creating user stories or identifying NFRs for me. So it is so beautiful to see this in action. It comes at a little cost of paying a tool or a model, but I think it's totally worth it. And what Backbase has done, apply this to banking with banking gate controls and let an IT team of the bank use this framework without reinventing it. So the landing zone also comes in our world with an SDLC agentic framework around it.
Fantastic. In the interest of time, I've got one last question that I really want to ask you about, because core modernization has been a hot topic across the banking scene in a number of conversations that we've had over the last year and even longer. And it's a massive undertaking. What are the and a lot of this requires a modern core, I believe, may stand to be corrected. But what are the key mistakes banks are making when they're approaching core modernization? And is there a smarter, more iterative path for them to take?
Yeah, I think there's a pretty famous statement that I've heard business owners from banks make or architects from banks make. It's like an open heart surgery to replace your core. And I think people have come to terms with it, right? I think when they establish the integration landscape, choosing the right tools in that landscape would allow them to do a progressive hollowing out of the core, which means try to reduce not the core vendor. People confuse the core vendor from the core.
Yes.
For example, Oracle is a core banking vendor, but they have many more products which are very cool. But their core product, let's say the core banking, is also being reduced itself to a ledger. While there is a fintech for everything else, there is a fintech for payments, there is a fintech for fraud, there is a fintech for identity verification, there is a fintech for everything. Best in breed solutions would allow you to pick and choose from a wide marketplace of vendors and their connectors. But to land this in your organization, I would really see everybody investing in tooling like having a mature API management layer, having a integration platform layer where they can manage these connectivity at scale and can do gradual rollout for both API driven integrations that could be progressively rolled out. Because I think the first step we took was unify the domain. Let's say you unified the domain called deposits. And this domain today is going to your classical mainframe core or an old core. You could choose that some operations from this domain are now being routed towards the new core, while some operations, for example, core was dealing with all the payment types. Probably there is a better fintech which is really good at payment processing. You are introducing that. So all the accounts transactions go to a core banking system that you are trying to monetize, while slowly your payment requests are going towards the payment fintech vendor. But they're all still talking the same domain. They're still talking to the same domain. And that is very powerful because you thought domain first, unified your APIs, and let a routing layer choose where they want to go next. It's of course easier said than done because not all systems are API based. But that's a foundational element that we decided to do also in our product. Build an integration platform with bi-directional connectivity first, API as well as events. Introduce vendors which are handpicked from the market, which do one thing very good. Like, for example, we chose Feedzai as our fraud vendor. Feedzai is also chosen by the European Union to be their fraud vendor for the digital euro. Best in breed product. But then they do fraud really well. And in those cases, you would see, okay, now I can say that given that my domain has been unified, I can choose where to route it. And I can gradually start routing it to fit for purpose products. And this results in the least amount of impact on your channel applications or your digital banking applications. And in the same way, bi-directional connectivity, meaning if something changes on the core or on the vendor, like your CRM is changing, your fraud vendor is changing something, an event happens, you must have eventing capabilities in your integration layer also to listen to those changes and relay them to the next destination. And that has been crucial for our stability and resilience of our integration platform eventually. And that's why we can tell the banks, if you are having a core modernization ambition, we can help you there because we thought about this problem from ground up.
Hollowing out the core, that's going to become my new motto. Deepak, we've run out of time. One last sentence. What's your key recommendation if banking leaders only had to focus on one thing next to drive immediate measurable growth? What should it be? What's the key thing? And then we'll bring this to a close.
I just look for two things, right? Identify who in the bank is responsible for platformification of AI and believe in centralized yet democratized play. So identify who is enabling the rest of the organization in the favorite tool of choice that the central authority enforces on the organization, so that all the cross-cutting concerns we discussed today are honored. And the regulator can also come to one place and see how the AI is doing. And that would be a big win, right? And it would mean decisions. It would mean giving authority to some individuals in the larger organizations to take those and trust them to enable the rest of the organization. Because last thing you would want is an agent sprawl in the organization which nobody can contain. And in a world where, as I said, from cloud native architectures to AI native architectures, in a world where this is changing very fast, you don't want to be in that position. And I think that's why create the landing zone, choose the best fit for purpose tool that you see out there to create that landing zone. Take from open source some fantastic projects out there. Trust your hyperscaler to do something good, and then bring a solution to your organization that makes it all tick. And that will be a winning recipe for all. I'm pretty confident, we are there to assist our customers, as well as there are smart people in the room who are cognizant of this change and they are acting on it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time, Deepak. We look forward to speaking to you again sometime soon, hopefully, and find out another update on how's it all going. Thank you again.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Andrew. Cheers.
Yes.